Welcome to my basement, everybody, and also welcome to a very different Rocket and Raygun Award celebrating the very best movies of 2016. I brought the toy cast of Rogue One right here. This is the, took me hours to break them out of their packaging. What's up with that Disney store? Crazy. These are the Elite Series figures. Rogue One may be in my list. I'm doing something a little bit differently this year, of course, because I went out and reviewed a lot of these movies on my lonesome and did a lot of reviews on the run for you guys. But I saw dozens of movies in 2016, many good ones, many not so good ones, and we're going to talk a little bit about all of that right now. I'm going to pick my 10 favorite movies of 2016 for you, and I'm going to start with number 10, which is Kubo and the Two Strings. This is from Leica Entertainment. They've done Paranorman and Caroline. They're a stop-motion animation company, and they do incredible work, just amazing animation, very, very cool, stylish, powerful storytelling in this movie, which is all about a kid that's sort of growing up and has to face some really hard issues and has to basically go on the run and then on the hunt to kind of figure out what has happened to people that he cares about. And he's got these incredible abilities that allow him to bring paper to life. And you're going to see stuff in this movie that you've never seen anywhere else before. Great voice cast, you know, with Matthew McConaughey and Charlize Theron kind of taking the lead, but lots of other lesser-known actors. Everybody is solid, but it's really the story and the way it's all been crafted for us that makes Kubo and the Two Strings incredibly unique and so special and so worth your time. And it was an amazingly strong year for animation in 2016, as you're going to tell by a lot of the movies that I'm going to call out on this list. And speaking of which, number 9 is Zootopia. This is from Disney Animation. Now, this is the, a lot of the same pedigree and a lot of the same, craftspeople that worked on movies like Frozen and Tangled and Big Hero 6 and Wreck-It Ralph. You know, these are great movies, but I feel like Zootopia is the most beautiful movie that they've crafted so far. And, Moana is certainly something that I'm going to talk about here in a little bit, too. That's also stunning as well. But Zootopia, I think, it worked in some really cool ways because there's so much design in the film. There's so many different areas that are represented. They basically have this animal kingdom, which is represented by little miniature cities and full-size cities because they deal with scale. They deal with prey and predators in this movie. So we've got giant beasts that come off as being incredibly dangerous, and we have little tiny mice and things like that, which are obviously skittish and nervous. And the sloth are the scenery chewers in this movie. They take the picture, they run away with some great scenes in this film. But Jason Bateman and Jennifer Goodwin, who are the two main cast members, are fantastic together. I'm a huge fan of Jason Bateman. I think he's just so droll and so funny, and he's great in this film. And there's lots of, fantastic, homages to popular culture themes and ideas and scenes from other movies that we've seen before. It's just amazingly well crafted. It works for kids, it works for adults, and it's stunning. It's an absolute masterwork in terms of CG. I loved Zootopia. Now, number 8 is Doctor Strange, and this was the Benedict Cumberbatch film. This was a weird one. I mean, it was a weird one that it got made in general. I mean, this is such a crazy concept, this sorcerer that has these mystical powers that can, navigate through dimensions and basically jump into portals and appear somewhere else and do all of these incredible magic attacks. Becoming a superhero was a very trippy 60s, mind-bending comic book that has gone on to great success and high pedigree within the Marvel universe. But it's a strange, no pun intended, comic to bring to the big screen because of course, all of its elaborate special effects. Now, thankfully, the visual effects industry in 2016 is so accomplished and so talented that they are able to realize these impossible comic panels into something that we have never seen before on the big screen. Certainly, there are echoes of Inception and other visual effects tropes, a little Star Wars and Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, there's just some massive, cities folding in on each other type scenes in this movie. But it is staggering to behold, and I don't think it would work if it didn't have such a tight story with great acting. Of course, Benedict Cumberbatch is amazing as our titular hero. He's terrific as Doctor Strange, but Chiwetel Ejiofor is great in there, and Rachel McAdams brings a lot of, heart and real concern for this egomaniac who becomes a superhero. And Tilda Swinton did a great job as the Ancient One in this, even though it was, controversial casting or whatever. This movie had a lot of inherent challenges as it made its way to the big screen, and honestly, it feels like it's an impossibility that was once again accomplished by Marvel. I think they did that, and they showed that they could go into this more mystical, interdimensional kind of, movie making with the Thor films, and we've got the third one coming this year. But Doctor Strange took us to a totally different level, and it was so effective, and it's such a fun, unique, great part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I can't wait to see Doctor Strange again in the Avengers and then probably in subsequent sequels. Very, very impressed with Doctor Strange. Coming in at number 7 is Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. That's why I brought out my little friends here. We have a terrific cast in this movie. It's I've talked at length about how I feel about Rogue One. I've actually gone to the theater to see that movie more than any other movie in 2016. I've seen it 3 times in the theater, partly because it's such a dense, rich story with so many different little threads for you to tug on and so much to see populating the screen. Gareth Edwards did an amazing job, and his team of writers and production designers and the story experts at Lucasfilm. They did an amazing job sort of connecting the dots and sort of tying it to the classic Star Wars trilogy and making us really care about characters that just we meet for the very first time. The third time that I saw the movie, I was really, really taken aback by how profound it is that we see the whole arc of Jyn Erso in Rogue One, and what an amazing character and what an amazing mission that these characters have to go on to kind of save the galaxy. These are true heroes, and it's going to be very interesting to see how they're remembered in future installments of Star Wars and how it's reflected back and how we get to see these different characters pop up in other media around Star Wars. It's a terrific movie. It's not the best Star Wars movie. It's not my favorite one in the franchise, but man, it is a movie that just gets better and better upon repeated viewings. And I wasn't crazy about it the very first time that I reviewed it, and I'm certainly not making this list of my 10 favorite movies from 2016 based on just review score alone. But Rogue One is something that stuck with me. I actually can't wait to see it again. I can't wait to have it at home and watch it again. I bought the whole cast of all the hero characters as action figures, and that says something. I've come to learn their names. I've come to respect their abilities and what they each brought to this incredible movie. Rogue One, A Star Wars Story comes in at number 7. Now coming in at number 6 is a totally different type of movie. It's not a Star Wars movie. It's not sci-fi. It's not superheroes. It's not spies. This is a musical. It's La La Land, starring Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone. It's directed by Damien Chazelle, who brought us Whiplash, which was an amazing film, and you got to see that if you haven't seen it. La La Land is very whimsical. It's going to be hard to take if you're not into musicals, and I've read and come to understand that Damien Chazelle decided to make a big sort of dance number on the freeway in LA to start things off with this movie, basically to make sure that the audience who was there to see this film could take it and could sort of groove with what they were going to put out with this film. You have got to, sit down and sort of get lost in the fantasy of a young musician and a young up-and-coming actor finding their way in Hollywood and trying to kind of keep their soul and be proud of the work that they're doing and also nurture a relationship that they're building. All of it is incredibly complex, and it actually is represented with, as much as it is a romantic film, there's also a lot of mature themes and a lot of emotional undertones and layers there that I think resonate with anybody in any relationship trying to deal with work-life balance and dreams and aspirations. It's just that Hollywood, I think, nurtures that kind of romanticism and that sort of reaching for the stars so wonderfully well. And I'm a huge fan of Singin' in the Rain, which also has a lot of this, similar themes. I found that similarity between these two films, that classic Gene Kelly movie and this modern day musical, just so wonderful. And I really, really enjoyed La La Land. It was absolutely one of my favorite movies of 2016. And I think more than anything, you're going to be incredibly impressed by the commitment that both Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone kind of showed to the work here. They did an amazing job, and it deserved every one of its 7 Golden Globes that it won. La La Land is incredible. Okay, with number 5, we're going back into sci-fi, but this is incredibly intelligent sci-fi. This is called Arrival. It's directed by Denis Villeneuve, who is hard at work finishing the new Blade Runner 2049, which comes out later this year. It stars Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner as scientists. Amy Adams is a linguist who has to kind of connect with, these alien life forms that are trying to communicate with human beings. And there's a lot of confusion and a lot of stress, a lot of miscommunication that's happening from global powers all over the Earth, because these 12 spaceships have landed in different cities on different continents around the globe. And it's incredibly pressure-filled, but it's also very personal and, once again, fraught with real human emotion, and you are just completely taken for a ride in this movie. It is so intelligent and so mind-bending and beautifully cerebral, just showing the ability for scientists and for really, really smart thinkers to kind of improvise and deal with huge challenges that are presented to them. And I love that about Arrival. A lot like The Martian, that Matt Damon movie from 2015, it really celebrates, deep thinking and scientific analysis and taking in a bunch of data and throwing it up on the wall and sort of figuring things out. And I love that. I mean, I don't want it to sound like it's a boring movie that's all just about number crunching and data and trying to communicate. It is definitely not that. It's a powerful, wonderful film that's, just feels authentic and eerie and unique and fresh. This is an amazing science fiction film with an emphasis on science. Arrival comes in at number 5. With number 4, we're doing something very different than Arrival. We're going back into the realm of superheroes again, but superheroes like we've never seen before on the big screen. This is Deadpool. It's very profane, it's incredibly funny, and it's also a powerhouse hit that is changing the landscape on how we're going to perceive superhero movies in the future. And I think we're going to see some direct influence from Deadpool, not in the comedic sense, but definitely in the R-rated sense with the new Logan movie that's coming up very quickly. Deadpool was just astounding when it hit the big screen. What a surprise. Best opening credit sequence in movie history, as far as I'm concerned, but the perfect star in Ryan Reynolds, and not just because he had the dream to do this character properly ever since he was first cast as Deadpool back in the day, but we won't talk about that. But mostly because he's an actor that's always been better than a lot of the material that he's been given. Looking at you, Green Lantern, also looking at you, Blade 3. He is so funny and so fast and so witty and so charming and so believable as this graceful, athletic, muscle-bound superhero. It's perfect casting. It's like Robert Downey Jr. level casting for this character. And, this movie works because of Ryan Reynolds, but it really sort of elevates because of the incredible team behind the movie. Obviously, incredible visual effects artists there. As we know, famously, they didn't have the hugest budget to work with, but they made a lot with a little. And the movie looks great. All of the action sequences that we see with Deadpool flipping and flying and slashing through bodies and shooting people in the face and bullets flying through heads and all of the carnage that's represented by this movie in a over-the-top, crazy, hyper video game way is just incredible to watch. And it wasn't just the behind-the-scenes team that really excelled, led by Tim Miller, who is getting all kinds of buzz now. He's not going to be on Deadpool 2, which is kind of crazy. Rumor is that he's going to be working on the new Terminator movie, which, hopefully, fingers crossed, that turns out good. But it's not just the behind-the-scenes team. The cast was also fantastic in this movie. Rena Baccarin was an excellent foil for Ryan Reynolds. Their chemistry together on screen was absolutely dynamic and wonderful to watch. There's some real heart and real humor between these two characters. I loved watching them interact and get it on, because it is kind of a sexy thing when they're together. It was good. But I also like T.J. Miller. He's very funny. I think he's at his best in this sort of buddy role, and he does a great job as being, Deadpool's pal. But I also like Brianna Hildebrand as Negasonic Teenage Warhead. I thought that the interplay and the interaction between Deadpool and her was absolutely funny as hell. This was a great movie. It's a fun movie to watch on a whole bunch of different levels, but mostly it just is the funniest most outrageous superhero experience you could ever think of, and I can't wait for Deadpool 2. Number 3 is a more traditional superhero movie. It's Captain America's Civil War, which was absolutely brimming with superheroes. So many different amazing superheroes and a couple of incredible reveals, including our new Spider-Man and our new Black Panther. An amazing airport fight sequence where we see this incredible transformation for Ant-Man. The way that they set this movie up, it maybe wasn't fully realized as well as the comic book series was. They didn't really have the time within its two hour, 20-minute mark to get into all of the minutia that we had in the comic series, but they did a pretty damn good job at sort of representing the friction that Captain America and Iron Man have, and then seeing how different superhero characters would ally themselves on each other's teams, and then to see that epic battle was absolutely incredible. I really love the interplay that we got between the actors, and it's really fun to see these characters sort of evolve over time, and the actors themselves, the people that are playing all of these roles, kind of have new layers to the relationships that they're building. All of that stuff was wonderfully portrayed on screen. And I think this movie really works because we have an incredible new wave of Marvel superheroes that is being introduced here. And the fact that all of these different characters were intricately combined into a story that does deliver. I don't think it's as resonant as Captain America Winter Soldier, which blew everybody away, but the fact that all of these sort of elements have all been interwoven into this complex tale that satisfies on a whole bunch of different levels. It's a big spectacle. There is some great sort of character work that's happening there. We're seeing evolution between relationships of these characters. We're seeing, human sides and the human cause and effect. There's real rationale with why the military and why the government would want to kind of register all of these superheroes and why there would be opposition to that on the superhero side. This was just a hell of a great time at the movies. It deserves to be high on this list, and it is, and it deserves repeat viewings, and I can't wait to see what the Russo brothers do with the Avengers going forward. Now, coming in at number 2, we're going back into the world of animation with The Little Prince, which is directed by Mark Osborne and is based on a famous French children's novel that has been translated and reissued many, many times. Now, the take on the movie was a little bit different. They definitely have an adaptation of the storytelling around The Little Prince, but there's also this other sort of meta tale, which is unraveling the mystery of the Little Prince from the viewpoint of a little girl that's sort of getting thrust into the machinery of this industrialized world, and she's just watching her mother rush around and try to kind of contend with all of the challenges of raising her daughter and getting her into the right school, but also doing all the stuff that work requires of her. It hits you really hard in the heart with a lot of the ways that it tells you the story, because the little girl kind of falls in love with her next door neighbor, this older aviator played by Jeff Bridges, who will break anybody's heart. That guy's just an amazing actor. There's just this beautiful gift that he has of being able to tell a tale, and the story that he tells us is the story of the Little Prince. And so we go from this kind of traditional animation, this thing that we're kind of getting used to seeing every month or so in the movie theaters with almost sort of Disney or Pixar-esque characters, to more of this papercraft, almost stop-motion style animation that evokes the illustrations from the Little Prince storybook. There's some great voice work and lots of really incredible cameos from very, very famous actors, but everybody has been expertly cast, and really what this movie celebrates is the idea of individualism and expression and creativity and finding your way to be a unique spirit in the world. It's hard not to get emotional, man. This movie really affected me. I came out of it and I was just I was awestruck. I was really, really impressed by the craftsmanship that was on display there. And it was one of those movies that defined for me why I do this, why I go out to see these films, why I get lost in the entertainment that I critique and take a look at, and why I want to talk about these things, because they're so valuable. They're so worth our time, It's escapism, but when it's art like this, when it's wonderfully rendered and built from the heart, it needs to be shared and it needs to be discussed and talked about, and that's exactly what I felt when I saw The Little Prince. It's a beautiful movie. It's going to stand the test of time. My family has seen it. I suggest that you get family members together and loved ones together and see it as well. The Little Prince is number 2 on my list. Now, number 1 on my list is also a Jeff Bridges movie. Man, I love that guy. This is Hell or High Water. Jeff Bridges is in there. His partner is Gil Birmingham, and they have a fantastic relationship as a couple of cops that are on a manhunt for 2 brothers that seem to be robbing banks willy-nilly across a very dilapidated New West. It's kind of a Western, and a celebration of Western tropes that we've seen before, but obviously everybody's in cars and it's modern day. And Chris Pine and Ben Foster are the 2 brothers. They're also fantastic in this movie. But the standout is Taylor Sheridan's script. This is one of the sharpest dark comedies that I've seen in recent years. And I was completely blown away by the fun of the dialogue here and the incessant bickering that goes on between these 2 very different pairs. You know, we've got the cops in one car and we've got the brothers in another car, and there's a lot of stony silence and smirking that goes on with the 2 brothers, and there is just a lot of poking fun and jibing and just making each other miserable, but it's so funny to watch between the 2 cops. And it's a road trip because we go from town to town. It's filled with unbelievable character actors as well. You're going to see a lot of faces in there that you've probably never seen before, or maybe you recognize, but they blend into the scenery in such a fantastic way. There's some dark stuff in here as well, and there's some powerful emotional stuff in here as well. But it's littered with surprise, an incredible movie. It's one that I think fell under the radar of a lot of people out there, but I think you'll see it on a lot of critics' lists for one of the best, if not the best, of 2016. Hell or High Water. I've been raving about it since I saw it. I promise you're going to be impressed by this thing. And congratulations. That's our Rocket and Raygun Award winner for the best movie of 2016. Hell or High Water absolutely rocks. Now, I've got 5 quick honorable mentions that I definitely want to talk about here. I'm going to speed through them and tell you why I think that all 5 of these films are also worth your while. Moana is a new Disney movie that came out this year as well, and it's a musical. It stars The Rock. There's some unbelievable animation. This is, in a year where there were so many gorgeous movies, Zootopia, Kubo and the Two Strings, The Little Prince. Moana, I think because of its South Pacific kind of locale and the underwater stuff that we see and the lava stuff that we see, just the disparity of the visual effects that we see in this movie, stunning, breathtaking. Moana is definitely not to be missed. Doesn't matter sort of where you sit on the animation front, or if you think cartoons are just for kids, whatever, throw away all that crap and go see Moana. It's incredible. 3 very suspenseful movies that I think you should check out, and I'm not going to get into too many details, I don't want to spoil anything, are Green Room, which really, really surprised me. It's about a band that gets stuck facing some white supremacists and the horror show that they create around there. Amazing work in there. And sadly, it's going to be one of the last movies that we're going to get from Anton Yelchin, who's superb in this movie. 10 Cloverfield Lane, which was directed by the Totally Rad Show's Dan Trachtenberg, who I've known for years, and I'm just absolutely, stunned by this guy's talent. Congratulations, Dan. Amazing movie, incredibly tense. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, John Goodman, and John Gallagher Jr. are our 3 main cast members in this thing. We're in a bunker. It's claustrophobic. It's incredibly intense. There's weird stuff going on up above. Nobody knows what the hell is happening, who's real, who's lying to each other, and you're going to see some just nail-biting stuff in this movie. It's a tour de force, and we're not going to be able to take your eyes off the screen. Incredible stuff. I feel similar emotions about Don't Breathe, which stars Stephen Lang as this blind vet who'd had some horrific things happen to him in the past. He has his house broken into by some drug addicts and desperate people that are trying to change their lives, these young kids, and he essentially turns the tables on them. And it turns from this tale of like major concern for what they're going to do to Stephen Lang to, oh my God, what the hell is Stephen Lang going to do to these kids? And it's horrifying. There's some grisly stuff in this thing, but again, riveting, fantastic direction, and also another movie that's very confined in space, but so effective, so powerful, and so worth your time. Now, the other movie that I thought was, maybe a little underappreciated and definitely worth your time was The Nice Guys, starring Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling again. This was directed and written by Shane Black, and this is also a celebration of 70s era Los Angeles and Hollywood. And it's also a tip of the hat to all the pulpy noir detective dramas that we've seen over the years. A little, throwback to the Sam Spade era. And the chemistry between Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling is something to behold. They're fantastic together. They have great lines. In addition to these two, heavyweight lead actors, Angourie Rice, who plays Ryan Gosling's daughter in this, is also fantastic. Great script. Shane Black is a master at this kind of stuff. Guy's amazing. Really, really cool stuff. Now, I also have 5 of my most disappointing movies of 2016, and I bet you can probably guess what those are. Batman vs. Superman is definitely on that list. You can watch my review of that. I was hurt by that film. My biggest complaint about the movie, and I have many, but my biggest is the fact that our Batman, as tough as he is and as fun to watch in action as he is, just did not seem like the world's greatest detective. And I'm really concerned about the sort of subsequent portrayal of this character. Not that Ben Affleck is ill-suited for the role, but I just want him to be smarter than he is ready to punch people to death. That's my big deal with that. Suicide Squad was just a jumble, just a mess. Some interesting character stuff pops up every once in a while, but it just didn't make any kind of freaking sense. It was just a bunch of mishmashed scenes, and sometimes characters would pop on screen and then be killed and, effectively just yanked off screen by a giant hook. And obviously huge disappointments with the fact that the Joker wasn't a major role in this thing. Nothing resonated for me really out of that movie. I don't think people were poorly cast. I just think it was too much force to try to make it a big franchise picture, and it just was a huge mess, a jumble. Now, Star Trek Beyond also disappointed me. I thought that it was kind of a derivative action movie. It was like Star Trek wants to be Star Wars. It wants to have this, super poppy, action-packed kind of spectacle. Some of that stuff worked, certainly sort of setting up the utopian ideal of the Star Trek space stations was cool, but the minute we've devolved into Kirk is racing around on a dirt bike and he's doing jumps and saving everybody, and the galaxy is once again saved by 5 or 6 Star Trek Enterprise crew members, it just felt inauthentic, and it felt like this was trying to be a Guardians of the Galaxy or a Star Wars movie. And I really hope that Star Trek, as it evolves, gets a little bit smarter on the big screen. Similar kind of feelings with Jason Bourne. This was the Matt Damon back in action, spy thriller. This was such a generic movie. This really didn't have any resonance with me. I don't even remember what the hell happened in this thing. I just know that there were lots of scenes that looked like scenes from previous Jason Bourne movies, and by now trying to figure out where each one fits in the timeline is going to be kind of like reliving the scenes of Jason Bourne trying to deal with his memories and all of the haziness that he's got in there. This movie didn't need to exist. It didn't add anything to the franchise. I actually like the Jeremy Renner Jason Bourne-less Jason Bourne movie that they made. That was a better movie. This movie was lame and forgettable, and I feel like I forgot it already, which is incredible. And of course, the other huge movie that disappointed the hell out of me was Assassin's Creed. This was the Michael Fassbender produced and starring film that was trying to encapsulate, huge chunks of new material from the Assassin's Creed universe, with the occasional sort of tip of the hat to some of the stuff that we see in the video games. The sequences where we were in the past were kind of interesting, and I really wish that they had inverted the amount of time we were in the past with the amount of time that we're in this drab, dreary sort of Brazil-like institution. This sort of stuff in modern day is terrible and so boring and so meaningless and such a grind to get through. And then we go into the past and it's well choreographed. There's some fantastic stunt sequences. It's kind of thrilling to see. I actually like the look of all of that stuff, but the movie was pompous and long and stupid and insipid and silly and just kind of assassin bladed my whole love for the Assassin's Creed franchise. Terrible, terrible film. Easily my most disappointing film of 2016. So there you go. That was a lot of movie talk, and from here on out on the channel, we are going to be talking about all the 2017 stuff. We're going to be taking a look at the movies that we're most excited for 2017 very soon. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching, everybody, and definitely leave me your comments below, and if you've got a list of your favorite movies from 2016, I want to see that. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. Hey, thanks for checking out that video on our EPN channel. It's just one small part of the things that we make around here. So if you liked it, don't forget to check out some of our other vids and hit that subscribe button.